to the hills here in these canyons, you know, one of the ways that they have to build is to support their houses on stilts. That's the only way to do it. So if you take a look up to the left-hand side up here, you're going to see these two houses up here. Just on the other side of this tree line, you're going to see these two houses. So the entire support system is stilts. Nothing underneath these houses but air. When I see those houses, you know, I was born and raised here in Southern California, so when I see those houses, earthquake. Now, earthquake is something that, you know, when you're born and raised in LA, earthquakes are something you become accustomed to because they're just part of living here. You don't like them, but they're just something that you know is a part of your life. So I don't know if those houses were up there in 1994 when we had our last big one here in Southern California. But if they were, they survived it good one. But if they weren't, we'll see if they survived it good one. It says we're coming around this corner. We are actually in Beverly Hills. And the house up here on the right-hand side, the address is 1011. 1011 on the right-hand side. They did a lot of filming for The Godfather right here. And this is also where John F. Kennedy and Jackie Onassis spent their honeymoon. Now, John F. Kennedy had a lot of stomping grounds here in Beverly Hills, as did his brother Robert. It was up at the Beverly Hills Hotel that they both spent time with one Marilyn Monroe. Not at the same time, but they both spent time with her at the Beverly Hills Hotel, which is going to be coming up here. We're going to be coming up here in just a moment once we get up to Sunset Boulevard. So homes in this area here can go anywhere from $10 to $30 million as you stretch out into this particular neighborhood. And that's just because this is Beverly Hills. This is Beverly Hills. Palm tree lined streets, and a lot of stuff to be seen in this area. We're going to be kind of skipping through Beverly Hills. We're going to go into Bel Air, Holmby Hills, Bel Air, and then back into Beverly Hills, and then we're going to also, because we're in a small bus, we're going to be able to go down Rodeo Drive, which is always kind of fun because you never know what you're going to see on Rodeo Drive. Alright, so as I make my right-hand turn here, we're going to be in front of the Beverly Hills Hotel. The Beverly Hills Hotel is the oldest hotel in Beverly Hills. It's 107 years old, opened up in 1912. So, and when our international political figures come here to LA, this is where they stay. They stay here at the Beverly Hills Hotel. And the reason they stay here is because they are treated like royalty, and that's what they like. They used to stay at the Century Plaza down in Century City, but the Century Plaza is under renovation. The hotel is owned by the Sultan of Brunei, very, very rich gentleman. And if you remember the album cover for the Eagles, Hotel California, if you remember that album cover, that was actually shot here at the Beverly Hills Hotel. They did that on the roof. So we're on Sunset Boulevard, and Sunset Boulevard is one of our roads that you can take from downtown Los Angeles and take it all the way out to the Pacific Ocean. So that would be kind of a fun thing to do. Now where this road is going to drop you off is on Pacific Coast Highway, and it's going to drop you off in front of a beach called Will Rogers. And Will Rogers is just one of those beaches that pretty much is just sand and water. There's nothing fancy there. If you're looking for something fancy, take Pacific Coast Highway down to the left, and that's going to take you into Santa Monica. And if you keep going a little bit further, you're going to end up at in Venice at the boardwalk. So when you go into those two areas, you're going to run into thousands of people. That's just the nature of Santa Monica and Venice. Thousands of people. Very, very busy places, but they're very fun in their own respects because Santa Monica has the pier, roller coaster, Ferris wheel, other sorts of different rides down there. So that's a very fun place. And then, of course, you've got the boardwalk at Venice. And you never know what you're going to see when you go on the boardwalk. You never know what you're going to see. Street performers and people making their own trinkets and all sorts of good stuff. So the boardwalk is a lot of fun as well. So if you're going to be going to the beach while you're here in LA, you've got a lot of choices as to where you're going to go. If you're looking for something a little bit more quiet and a little bit more reserved from the boardwalk, then take yourself up to the north and go to our north end beaches. Go up to Zuma. Go into Malibu, go into those areas. Go up to Leo Carrillo and go up to those areas because they are a lot. You may run into people. You're going to run into people, but not to the extreme that you do with Santa Monica and Venice. So we're going to go down what I call the Street of Two Kings, and that's the street that I'm going to make a left-hand turn on right now. When I make my left-hand turn, the first house that you're going to see on the right-hand side is the house that belonged to the King of Rock and Roll. This was Elvis Presley's home, right here on the right. I'm going to pull up where you can see a little bit on the inside of the house as well, and that's going to be up here a little bit. So Elvis Presley owned this home from 1967 to 1975, and this was the last home they owned in LA before he and Priscilla moved to Graceland, so before they moved back east to Tennessee. Now, when he sold the house to a guy named Telly Savalas, and Telly Savalas was, of course, Kojak. He owned the house for 35 years, and then when he sold the house, he sold it to the guy who currently owns the property. There have been no changes made to this property other than the statues being added at the end of the row. So that is the house that Elvis owned. Up here on the left-hand side, the house with the white wall up here, the wall up above, this is the house that Michael Jackson was renting at the time of his death. Michael Jackson had been living here for about a year. He had been paying $100,000 a month in rent. And then that one night he had that fatal overdose of propofol. They took him down to Ronald Reagan UCLA Medical Center, and that's where they pronounced him. Right here. Yep, right here on the left. So I'm going to go around to the front of the house. You're going to see that you're probably going to recognize this gate, because this gate has been used in every single documentary and movie and TV show about his death. And they always document the gate. They always show the gate. That's one of the ways to get in. There's a couple of different ways to get into the house. But when he was living here with his kids, so the kids were with him as well. They were living in the valley, but the thing is that the valley to the Staples Center where he was rehearsing for his comeback tour is too far. So he wanted this place here in Holmby Hills, and Holmby Hills is what afforded him a better response, a better drive. So this is the gate that they pulled him up in.
Michael Jackson house when he did, huh?
So, and that's hard to believe, it's been 9 years already. That was back in almost 10, it's going to be 10 years this year. That was back in 2009. So there are no attack dogs on the premises. They just stay that to keep people away from the gate. But it doesn't, because on the anniversary of his death and on his birthday, people line this street, bring out flowers and do all sorts of nice stuff like that to memorize him, memorialize him.
Thank you, Diamond.
There was a part of Sunset Boulevard years ago, it was called Dead Man's Curve, and it was made famous in an old song from the 50s by Jan and Dean. It was called Dead Man's Curve, and it was about people who were always getting into car wrecks on that certain part of Sunset Boulevard that they actually had to come out and they had to fix the road because the curve was too sharp and people were always losing control of their vehicles. And that guy just kind of reminded me of that. So we're going to be going into the Bel Air Estates in a moment. In the Bel Air Estates, you know, a lot of celebrities are moving into gated communities. You know, and the reason behind that is basically because it's, you know, it's really easy to look up online where a celebrity lives. You know, you just go in, if you have any idea where they are, you can pull up their address really, really easily. I did that with Lady Gaga. I know she lives in Malibu, so it was really easy to pull up her address. You know, where does Lady Gaga live in Malibu? Pulled up an address really easily. So the Bel Air Estates used to be a gated community, and then about 10 years or so ago, what they did is that they came in and they took the gates down. So they opened it up to the public, and they opened it up to everybody. So that means that anybody can come in here. The tour buses can come in here. Doesn't matter what size they are. Anybody can come in here. Well, it's gotten to the point where the residents are kind of too through with that, so they are considering putting the gates back up. So they may make it a gated community again. So we're kind of waiting to see what happens. They're in negotiations with the city of Los Angeles to see if that is going to see if that's going to happen. So it's all been kind of a waiting game. You can see where the gate used to be. Big security detail again, and we're going to see if that's going to happen. So Bel Air Estates. Homes in this area start at $20 million. And that's for some of the smaller, older houses. Now, the highest piece of real estate on the market was here in Bel Air, and it was $250 million. That house was developed by a guy named Bruce Makowski. His goal in life is to create mansions for the super rich. And something happened with this house, and he had to drop $100 million off his asking price. So he took it down to $150 million. There used to be a helicopter up at that house. The helicopter is no longer there. So what people are doing is that they're coming into Bel Air, and they're building these smart houses. So these houses, like this house over here on the left, they're going to be building a smart house. It's going to have movie theaters, and everything is voice activated and very, very high tech and everything. And that's what we're seeing throughout Bel Air, is all these houses that are just being torn down and rebuilt. Who's running? Do we know you? No, doesn't look very familiar. And the house that we're going to take a look up here, this family is considered music royalty in the entertainment industry. If you look up above, you're going to see a house with a row of trees up there. That's Jay-Z and Beyonce's house.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's a beautiful house, isn't it? $87 million is what they paid for that house. It's a 4-story house. It's about 45,000 square feet. 4 stories, 4 infinity pools, and the biggest upgrade that they made to this house is that every window in that house is bulletproof. So they went to some really extreme security measures when they started doing upgrades to the house. Up until last fall, we were able to see the back balcony, and we used to be able to see people milling around on the back balcony. Don't know if it was them, don't know if it was help, or don't know who it was. But and then last fall we came by one day and the trees were being put up. So they wanted a little bit more privacy because they saw the tour buses pulling up in their backyard. So anyway, so that's Jay-Z and Beyonce. Now the thing about Bel Air is that you know there's a good handful of celebrities who do live here, but the majority of people who live here are just, you know, they're your everyday 1%er of society. So it's basically a bunch of rich people who live here. So not so many of the celebrities, even though we do have a good number of those, but it's just pretty much a lot of very, very wealthy people who live here. When I make this little turn off to the left-hand side, take a look to the right. And that's the house from the Fresh Prince of Bel Air. So now when they started using this house has only been used for the external shots. They did not do any actual filming of the show itself on location. That was all done on the soundstage, except for when Will Smith got out of the taxi cab. Smell you later. That was all done here on site, but the rest of the stuff on a soundstage. And I don't remember if that was at CBS or if that was at Warner Brothers or where that was. But anyway, so that was all used for external shots. And for anybody in a Hilton affiliated hotel off here to the left hand side, this house where it says West Haven, this is Kathy and Rick Hilton. Kathy and Rick are of course behind the hotel chain. They are also the proud parents of Paris Hilton. And then her siblings, Nikki and Baron and Conrad. This house on the right hand side, the last owner before it went private was Nicolas Cage. So Nicolas Cage owned this house. He actually lost it because of tax problems. Had problems with his money. And before that it was owned by singer Tom Jones. And before that it was owned by Dean Martin. So it's gone down some really, really cool hands. And then on the way out of here, this house here in the middle here, this corner house, goes off to the left and then it goes directly in front. He's doing a lot of work on the house. He's actually redoing the complete inside. This house belongs to George Lucas, the creator of Star Wars. So, and you can tell all the work that he's doing in here. He's been working on this house for a couple of months. Finally took the trees down enough for that we can actually kind of get an idea of what's happening here. So he's at 256 Copa de Oro. Alright, and then we have two more houses to look at, and then we're going to head into Beverly Hills. Alright, so the next house, now this guy who owns this house, he lives really, really out in the open. I mean to the point where that if you wanted to, you could go up and knock on his front door. I don't know how he would feel about that. I'm sure people have, but you could. No fancy gate, no gated community, no nothing. Now, he's got a very common name. His name is John Williams. Now, if you're not familiar with the name and you've ever seen a movie, you're going to be familiar with the music. Star Wars, Raiders of the Lost Ark, E.T., Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Schindler's List. Mr. Williams lives in this house right here on the left-hand side. He is home. The fanciest car he drives is that Lexus SUV. And he lives right here on the left. Now, Mr. Williams is a very funny character. He is 86 years old. He is still making music for the film industry. He has no intention of retiring, and in his words, they keep bringing me work. So he's going to keep doing it.
You say he's 86?
I'm sorry? 86. 86. And you know what's really funny is that he plays the Hollywood Bowl.
Ooh.
He plays the Hollywood Bowl. He does all his movie hits. Now, it's funny because when he does all the Star Wars stuff, people break out their lightsabers, right? So it's a really funny thing to see. But yeah, you know, he's an old guy, and he loves doing what he's doing. He loves it, and that's why he doesn't retire. So he's going to be at the Hollywood Bowl this year. I think it's going to be in August again, because that's when he was last year. He's going to do it. Alright, the last house we're going to look at is the Ecclestone Manor. And the Ecclestone Manor, if you remember the name Aaron Spelling, Candy Spelling, they are Tori's parents. But Aaron Spelling, if you remember The Love Boat, Beverly Hills 90210, Melrose Place, Charmed, Dynasty, all those shows from the 80s and 90s. Aaron Spelling was the executive producer of all those movies. He was a multi-billionaire. And he built this house here in Holmby Park. Now, when he died, the house was left to his wife, Candy. And Candy said, you know what, this house is 56,000 square feet. This house has over 123 rooms. My husband's dead. My kids are gone. Why do I need to deal with this house anymore? So she put it on the market. And when she put it on the market, you guys can see through the tree line over here. You can start seeing a bit of the roof over here, because this is all we can see anymore because of all the trees here. But you can get an idea of how big this place is. So Candy Spelling put it on the market. Okay, you can see a little bit of it over there. Candy Spelling put it on the market, and a 22-year-old woman stepped up. Her name was Petra Ecclestone. She says, I'm going to buy this place from you. I'm going to give you $85 million in cash to buy this house. Her name was Petra Ecclestone. Petra Ecclestone is the daughter of a guy named Bernie, and Bernie Ecclestone was the guy who founded Formula One racing. So she was pretty wealthy thanks to her dad, right? So she gave Candy Spelling $85 million in cash, and Candy was like, heck, I'm out of here. I'm going to get myself a little condo over there on the Wilshire Corridor, and you can have this pad. Petra moved in, and she said, man, the Spellings lived here. I need to make some serious upgrades to this place. So the first thing she did was put in a dance floor. And I mean a dance club dance floor. So that's what she did. She made some other upgrades. This was back in 2012. She's been here 7 years. She's ready to move. So last spring, she put the house on the market. She was offered $150 million, and she turned it down because it wasn't enough money. So her asking price was $200 million. Well, she hasn't been able to get that. So last fall, she relisted at $175 million. So she took a little bit off, right? Took a little bit off. And she hasn't been able to get that, so she's stuck with this big house that she no longer wants. So I keep checking it to see if she's going to be able to get this house, you know, if she's going to be able to unload this house, but she hasn't been able to do so. So Ecclestone Manor is sitting there at $175 million. And it is now the highest piece of real estate on the market in the nation today. It used to be the $250 million mansion at the top of the hill in Bel Air, but that's no longer there anymore. That house at the top of the hill in Bel Air, there used to be a helicopter up there. And I took a group of people up there, and I'm like, hey, look at the helicopter. And I go, hey, look up there. And I go, hey, it's gone. And the helicopter was gone. And my friend Ricky, who drives another two, he said he did the exact same thing. And he's like, no, it's not there anymore. So they must have sold it. Come on, come on.